Okay, shalom. Hello, my dear groups. So our class is about the Megillat Ekha, and I don't know how many of you are familiar with the Megillah. What I would like to share with you is that the Megillah is written by Jeremiah, the prophet, and there is a machloket about whether the Megillah was written during the time of King Yoakim, or it was a different Megillah that was written later when Jeremiah was with the Jews in the diaspora in Babel. So the opinion that says that he wrote a Megillah while he lived in Eretz Israel with King Yoakim. There are those who say that during that time, Jeremiah sent the Megillah to the ministers, and Yoakim saw the Megillah and obviously was very upset, and he burned it. So a new Megillah was written. And there is an opinion that says that the Megillah that we have now is actually the new Megillah. And the reason that they say that that it's a new Megillah, because the concepts of the Megillah have a taste of a reflection of aftermath, not during. The Megillah has 5 chapters in it, and it's written in an interesting metaphoric way. Jeremiah used the alphabet. Every passage, every pasuk has the letter Aleph and then Bet and then Gimel throughout the first one and the second one. The third chapter, he uses also alphabet, but it's a twist. He writes 3 psukim on the letter Aleph and then 3 psukim on the letter Bet and so on. And the further chapter, he just a reflection, but with no alphabetic order. So our topic is supposed to be lessons from the Megillah. And what we understand is that the Mefarshim told us that we can pick up few lessons from the Megillah, and what are they? So the first one, Chachamim says, obviously the concept of Teshuvah, because it's an ongoing messages that we receive throughout the Megillah, and we're going to touch upon them obviously later. And then there is another lesson in the Megillah that talks about the concept of tefillah. Tefillah means that we are praying to Hashem, asking for salvation, and we are now trying to understand exactly what is it about the tefillah that Jeremiah emphasizes in this Megillah that we can take with us into our future. The third message of the Megillah is the concept of nechama, consultation, reflection, and words of hope that we are going to see again in this Megillah that we will elaborate later on. Another concept that we have as a lesson is the whole concept of that how much do we appreciate the Torah that was given to us, and how much do we value the values of the Torah, how much have we internalized what the Torah can give us. As I mentioned before, that the Megillah is written with the order of alphabet. And the Midrash is asking, what is it that Jeremiah chose to write the Megillah in alphabet? And the Megillah is telling us, I'm talking to myself. Hello, can you hear me, please?
I can hear you.
Okay, have you heard me from the very beginning or just now?
Just now, I just tuned in. I just got it on. I couldn't get it on.
Yeah, I don't understand. I was talking already for 5 minutes, but I don't know who is listening to me. I'm wondering if I'm talking to myself.
Got it the whole time. We have it the whole time.
Oh, you had me the whole time?
Good.
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. I know where to continue. All right.
Okay, sorry.
It's okay. So as I explained, the Torah, the Navi started to write this book in alphabet order, and the Midrash is telling us that the reason that he chose to write it in alphabet order is to tell us that the Torah that was written in an alphabet, in Hebrew, in the alphabet, and that unfortunately Am Israel disregarded the value of the Torah. So he was hinting to us that the only tikkun, the only correction, is that we should change our attitude towards the Torah. And that is another lesson that we can learn from this megillah. So let's review what are the lessons that so far we picked up. So we picked up that we can get out from this megillah the importance of prayer, the importance of teshuvah, repentance, and the importance of how should we look at the Torah from now on, and what is the value of the Torah, and what happens during the time of the first temple, and what will happen in our future as it is today, what we call Kufat HaMashiach. And the last one, as I said, is the nechama. What should be our attitude towards waking up from a calamity, from a despair, from a distraction, and how do we build ourselves up and creating a hope towards the future and building a better future. So I would like to start at the very beginning, as the Megillah starts with the words Ekha yashva badad ha'ir rabati am. We want to reflect a little bit on those psukim as a beginning, because it will allow us to build into the mood of the Megillah. So as I said, it's like a poem. It's like a prose. The words have so much emotions in them, and metaphors that allow us to understand that this was written in as modern Ruach HaKodesh. It's a nevuah, and it's not only written for their days, it's actually written for our days as well. So when it says Ekha yashva badad, we have the word Ekha. And Chachamim, the Midrash, Ekha, asking actually the question, what made Yirmiyahu just choose the word Ekha out of all other words at the beginning? And they say that actually there were 3 people who said the word Ekha. So we have Moshe Rabbeinu that mentioned Ekha esa badad et ami, which means Moshe Rabbeinu feels the burden of carrying up the burden of taking care of Am Israel and presenting them throughout the Midbar in the desert and heading them to Eretz Israel. And the next one is the word Ekha Aita Lezona Kriya Ne'emana. The Navi Amos, I believe it was, who mentions the description of Am Israel and Eretz Israel as a foreigner woman, as a mistress woman, that instead of being loyal to its country, to its people, to the Torah, to God, has actually turned into other gods. And the next one who says Ekha is Jeremiah, and he is actually talking about not how Am Israel behaved in Eretz Israel, but actually how Am Israel now is so lonely and desperate in the diaspora. So what we understand is that the prayers and the tears that Am Israel are pouring, unfortunately, did not happen during the time that they were in Eretz Israel, but it happened after they have lost everything. We all know that Nebuchadnezzar, the Midrash explains that he killed 900,000 Jews every day. Every day. at the night of the destruction of the first temple. And the Midrash is telling us that while they were going in Nehar Prat, because they had to move through the Nehar, they were mourning more of the death that took place as they were passing the Nahar, the river, rather than what happened in Eretz Israel. And I'm telling you, 900,000 Jews were killed every day. But during the time that they passed the Nahar, it was way more than that, because the Israelis were used to drink water that comes from rain and not from the river of the Perat, which is a heavy water and probably full of germs because the slow movement in the water. And so many people died during that time. So we're talking about a society that was totally killed. So many few were left. So we are mourning over the loss. But when do Am Yisrael start to cry and reflect? Unfortunately, is aftermath. And one of the lessons that we can learn from this Megillah, because Jeremiah continually talking about how we now go back and reflect and say, wow, what have we missed? Now, we all know that the destruction of the temple took place because of three things that Chachamim keep telling us. In the first destruction, the temple was destroyed because Avodah Zarah, Shfichut Damim, Gilui Arayot. So idolatry, adultery, and Avodah Zarah, and killing, Shfichut Damim. Interestingly enough, though, in the Megillah, we don't have the reasons of the destruction. We only talk about what happened during the destruction and how Am Yisrael were left desperate and desolate during the time that they were going actually into exile. But what does Jeremiah is trying to give Am Yisrael as a lesson for the future? And what we understand is that Am Yisrael, if they had shed tears and they had prayed during the time that the Navi, when we were in Eretz Israel, things would have looked different. So Achida is explaining to us, when he talks about the Megillah, he's explaining to us that it is like a riddle. It is not understood. How can it be a society that had the Torah in front of them, that they were supposed to be living according to the Torah, that everything that the Torah is trying to teach us was supposed to be internalized as being part of our entity, defining who we are by practicing the Torah in every aspect of it? And how can it be that a society who had a Torah, who had rules and regulations, and had musar, and had so many lessons that they can take from the Torah, has failed to become a nation that, we're not talking about one person or two or three, we're talking about a whole society that deteriorated in a moral, ethical way, where they continually worship the idols, which obviously brought Hashem's wrath more than anything else. But not only that they were worshiping the idols, because the Navi telling us in another place, if that was the only sickness of Am Yisrael, if it was the only deficiency, Hashem would have held in, would not have destroyed Am Yisrael, would not send them to exile. But it wasn't just that. It was also the adultery. The adultery concept, where the Torah on the left and right tell us stay away from this and don't do that. And Am Yisrael engaged themselves with that concept. How can it be a nation who have a Torah will do that? It's a question. We should ask ourselves that question, even today. And then we have the Shfichut Damim. Now, Shfichut Damim has many levels to it, as you all know. It's not just one person killed another one. Shfichut Damim has to do with stealing and cheating. Shfichut Damim has to do with embarrassing someone. Yes, if you talk not nicely to someone and you cause him to be embarrassed, that's for the sense of shfichut damim. So when Chachamim told us all those three, we have to take them to many levels, not only to literal way that we tend to view it. How can it be a nation whom for thousands of generations received the Torah and they fail to live up to that Torah, to the lessons of the Torah, to the goal that Hashem has asked us to be a model, a very special model that will bring Shekhinah. What does it mean to bring Shekhinah? To bring Shekhinah means that from the word Shachen, neighbor, which means if we act in the way Hashem asks us to, then Hashem, the Shefa, the abundance, comes down to the earth. And the blessing of a unity between Hashem and us is present in this world. And therefore we will feel an abundance in every possible way. Not only in a materialistic way, which evidently it is one of it. Most of it will be a spiritual side of us. A society that will bloom and glorify in every aspect of spirituality, including art. Because art and music is a spiritual experience. And not to talk about lessons, morality, ethics. People write books, people write poetry. It's a shefa, it's abundance that comes down into the world. But in order for this shefa to come, we on earth are supposed to do some kind of work to allow it to come. So during the time of the first temple, as you all know, and also during the second temple, but mostly in the first temple, Am Yisrael were giving sacrifices in Bet HaMikdash. And as we all know, in Rosh Hashanah and Sukkot, the sacrifices that we bring were actually for the Goyim itself, for the whole nation, for the 70 nations, that they should have abundance, that they should feel the Shekhinah of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But it all starts in Eretz Yisrael, because Eretz Yisrael is the only place that Hashem blessed that will bring that Shefa out, in and then out. But it has to be in Eretz Yisrael, in Jerusalem, in Bet HaMikdash, in Kodesh HaKodashim. As we all know, we have so many areas of significant Kedusha that goes zoom in and in and in until it becomes amazing, powerful, awesome. So Am Yisrael was supposed to be the model. And then all the nations would just enjoy it, will reap from the fruits of the labor of Am Yisrael worshiping Hashem the proper way. And what does it mean, the proper way? What happened to a nation that knew the Torah? The Midrash will tell us in many ways that sometimes it was because we were nitty-picky about one thing in particular of the Torah. For instance, it could be a halacha, a law, that we become so picky-nicky and we become so medakdek that because we're so busy on then zooming onto one thing, we neglect the other mitzvot. That's one way to look at it. Another way to look at it is metaphorically. Imagine to yourself that you are sitting in the middle of a forest full of fruit trees, and you happen to sit on a certain place where there is, let's say, some fruits that you love and you enjoy and you really care about it. Now, if you stay there 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, before you know it, you focus on that, you forgot that there are other trees. Or could be sometimes that you will actually stand out of the forest, viewing the forest, but never enjoying the fruits of the forest. That's the metaphor. What I'm trying to say is that, you know, the Torah is like an ocean. And also they tell us about the Torah, which means turn here, turn there, try to use gematria, try to use hint, try to use pshat, try to use your thought, you will see an ocean of deep understanding. And the deeper you go, the more admiration you get, and you say to yourself, wow, this is like mind-blowing to know that the Torah hints to us in one word so many ideas, which we are going to try to pinpoint to them as we are going to look at few of the ideas of the Megillah. So this metaphor about the forest and the trees is the same thing in looking at the Torah. The Torah has Ramach mitzvot aseh and Shasa mitzvot lo ta'aseh. As we all know that. Taryag mitzvot 613 divides mitzvot aseh and mitzvot lo ta'aseh. And they are divided to specific timing and to specific people who are supposed to follow those mitzvot. Let's zoom into a few mitzvot that, people generally took upon themselves to fulfill, which is like Shabbat, Lametet Avot Melacha, and then prayer, and for the men, tefillin, and then the holidays, and then certain things that when we talk about mitzvot, lotas, stay away, stay away, stay away. Imagine if we focus on few of them, and our mind is so focused on them, we forgot there are other concepts that Torah is talking about. For instance, ואהבת לרעך כמוך, לפני עיוור לא תיתן מכשול, which means love your fellow friend as you love yourself. And in front of a blind man, quote to quote blind man means an ignorant or person who is completely blind on knowing what's going on. Do not put a trap. Don't let him fall. Don't make him make mistakes. Don't push him. Don't use your automatic pilot so he become aggressive or he become defensive. All those are ethical mitzvot, moral mitzvot that are so broad, and that there is no specific, immediate thing that you can tackle and say, oh, I now put a tefillin. It is an internalized value of how we are supposed to carry ourselves and how we are supposed to behave. And the Torah is full of those kinds of mitzvot. Let's say, shor chamoro, if you see the enemy of your friends, as you see your friend and you see your enemy, and they're both emptying their shore, the abundance that they have, and they need help, for instance, Chachamim tell us, oh, you have to help the one that is your enemy first before you go to your friend. How come? I mean, my instinct tell me, of course, I'm going to run to my friend and help them. But the Torah says, no, that's obvious. You're going to want to go to your friend and do it. But we want to see how you refine yourself through doing it for someone that is not your friend. And therefore, while you will help him, something will take place between the two of you. Maybe your heart will be softened. Maybe he's going to be astonished to know, wow, but I heard this man. I spoke so ill about him, and look at him. He's so forgiving and so nice, and he's helping me. And then it gives us a time to reflect and say, well, I should apologize. I should at least say to myself, wow, he's greater than me. He's better than me. Look at him. I've done ill to him, and he doesn't do it back to me. And the Torah is emphasizing those mitzvot not less than put tefillin or keep the Shabbat and don't do this and don't do that. Now, what happened to us when we are being blinded by one mitzvah and focusing on one and forgetting the others, as if the Torah didn't speak about it? And Jeremiah is forcefully not telling us that we should pay attention, that it's not about the shvichut damim, and it's not about idolatry or adultery, but it is about something way deeper than that. What happened to Am Yisrael that had to be thrown out of its country, out of its homeland, destroyed Beit HaMikdash, the place where everybody received so much shefa and beracha and blessing and abundance from that place, that did not allow Am Yisrael to enjoy it no more? Now, it is true. The Midrash is telling us, and we all know, that Shekhinah went with Am Yisrael to the exile, which is a comforting, but it's not the same. Because throughout the time that we were in the diaspora, the Midrash is telling us that the Shekhinah who came with us actually was more than benefiting Am Yisrael, was benefiting the world. It's just that we served the world in a diaspora, but we did not develop what we're supposed to do until Baruch Hashem today, that Am Yisrael, the majority of Am Yisrael, at least we have more than 600,000 people from 20 and up that are in Eretz Yisrael, which is the prerequisite for Shekhinah. That we are back in Eretz Yisrael when we have it. And if we are going to have the Shekhinah in Eretz Yisrael and we are going to do what Hashem is asking us to do, yes, is to walk in the path of the just, the path of Torah. Not necessarily, and that's what we need to understand, that we have adapted upon ourselves throughout the generations a lot of little things that we believe are the code for being walking in the path of the just. And we have been, I think, blinded by understanding that it's not just about the clothes that the person puts on himself and present who he is by, let's say, putting a hat, a scarf, a wig, or a certain way of clothes, although it is one of the factors of, obviously, being Eved Hashem is to be dressed modestly, because your inside and outside is supposed to be somehow connected. But it's more than so. It is about one's refinement of character that, as of today, is a reflection of who the person is. Is he a person of integrity? Is he an honest person? Is he doing acts of kindness? Does he have relationship with Hashem? We're talking about a genuine relationship. We're not talking just about the man walked into the shul and put his tefillin. That is definitely the first act, but I'm talking about much deeper than that. I'm talking about while the person went to the synagogue and put his tefillin, how he conducts himself inside in his understanding that he has an opportunity now to be in touch with Hashem and to be one with God. That is completely two different things. You walking into the shul, of course you have the zechut of the walking, and it's a mitzvah, and of course you open the siddur and it's a mitzvah, but I'm talking about way more than that. I'm talking about whether it's a 5 minutes or 10 minutes that you decided to be in one unit with God and talk to Hashem, and all the words that you say are supposed to be going straight to Shamayim, which means you're conversing with Hashem. Literally conversing with Hashem, not just thinking I'm now doing the mitzvah of prayer because it's Shmona Esrei, because it's this time, this hour that I'm supposed to be in shul, and therefore I said the words and I leave. No, not at all. It's one portion of the mitzvah, but it's not the mitzvah. The mitzvah is how did you succeed to express your feelings with those words that are connected, and you know that you're speaking to Borei Olam. Once we do that, then we know that the person has internalized how he defined himself and how he wants to connect to Hashem. And Jeremiah, throughout the book, and I'm going to go now into the book and give us psukim to show what I'm trying to tell you, is telling us that this was the injury of Am Yisrael. We call it mitzvat, shomrim et mitzvot kemitzvat anashim melumada, which means they follow the Torah and the mitzvot as robots. No emotions, no feeling, no enthusiasm, no gladness, no joy, even not just in prayer, also in learning the Torah. But so as I said, we are going to look at certain psukim so we can understand what is that Am Yisrael failed to to exercise and how we can learn a lesson from that and modify and change the way, transform, reform the way we go about exercising mitzvot and the experience of learning Torah. I must admit, I cannot fail to say that Am Yisrael has done huge steps towards this perfection of what Jeremiah is asking us. I must admit that today in Eretz Israel, there are so many Talmidei Chachamim and so many Chidushei Torah, not during the time of the Tanaim and then Achronim and then the Kabbalah that suddenly burst and gave us so many deep ideas. But even today, among regular Talmidei Chachamim, they have so many chidushim that are amazing. And you're asking yourself, wow, are we in touch with the Shekhinah again? And I must admit, yes, we are, especially those who live in Eretz Yisrael. And as I explained before, that the Shekhinah is not just about Chidushei Torah. It's about having the ability to write poetry and write books and develop art and music, which is done amazingly in Eretz Israel and all over the world as well. But as I explained, that is exactly what's supposed to happen. What's supposed to happen is that the whole world should enjoy the time of Mashiach, the time of the Shekhinah came back to Eretz Israel, that we are in touch with the Shefa, with the abundance that Hashem can bring us. So let's look at few psukim so we can dwell on this concept that I said. So we have few concepts, right? We said tefillah, I'm going to go with that. In Perek Bet, Pasuk Yudchet and Yutet, I don't know if you have the megillah with you, but I'm going to read those psukim so we can focus on what is the lesson we can take from this megillah about the concept of tefillah. So in pasuk Yudchet, it says, "Tza'ak libam el Adonai, chomat bat Zion, horidi chanach al dim'a, yomam v'layla, al titni fugat lach, al tidom bat einech." I'm going to translate. It says, "Tza'ak libam." Who was screaming up? Who was talking up? Who was crying out? Libam, their heart. To whom? To the Lord. And then he says, Chomat bat Zion, the wall of Bat Zion. Obviously, it's talking about who is the Choma of Bat Zion, who are the protector of Am Yisrael. Bat Zion is the daughter of Zion, which means Am Yisrael. Who is the wall? Obviously, these are Talmidei Chachamim. Any students who learn Torah, anyone who is in touch with Hashem, what should he do? Horidi chanachal dim'a, which means he's emphasizing the need to have tears. Tears should fall from our face like a river. Yomam v'layla, day and night. Al titni fugat lach. Don't allow yourself to have a pause. Fuga, pause. Al tidom bat einech, which means don't allow your eyes to be shut down. What? The Navi is trying to tell us. He's trying to tell us. Chachamim tell us that all the gates of heaven, there were 49 gates of Kedusha, were closed, shut. No entrance. You can't talk to Hashem from that gate. But there's one gate, two, but one, yes? Two, one that includes another one in it, and it is the gates of prayer, but not just prayer, the gates of Dima. The gates of tears were not locked. And that's what Jeremiah is telling us. Now, we're not talking about just bechi. Bechi is when someone is very hurt. Sometimes they can cry from their gut. And the cry will come out from the voice. Yes? Oh, but sometimes, which is even greater, you will see only a tear coming down. You will not see maybe no movement in the mouth, but there's definitely going to be tears coming down. And Chachamim explained to us that this kind of a tear is actually showing us that it comes straight from the heart. And Jeremiah is telling us, Shivchi kamayim libech, in another place. Pour your heart like water. So what do we learn from that? We learn from that we are to be in touch with our heart. We can't allow ourselves to have our mundane day take us over, all the things that we need to do every day, the routine, regulations, and then we go about our life and a day go and a day pass, and we're not in touch with our emotions. And we're not in touch with understanding what is it that we're missing out. Do we know what does it mean to a Bet HaMikdash, Shekhinah pouring over us? Allow us to feel the presence of Hashem. Allow us to feel so connected to God. That level of spirituality has been taken away from us for thousands of years. And we are crying and we're yearning for it to have it back. And Jeremiah says, this is the only way to get it back. It's through tears that come from the heart. He says also, continuing Pasuk Yuteh, Kumi roni balayla lirosh ashmurot, shivchi chamayim libech nochach pnei Hashem, שאי אליו כפייך על נפש עוללייך העטופים ברעב בראש כל חוצות. Jeremiah is telling us, look at the result of what is the mistakes Am Yisrael has done in their own hands, caused what happened to their babies, olalaych. Or from the word olalaych, we can say, mashe olalt. Olalt, the kavanai, you are the cause of the damage, no one else. And what does he say? Kumi roni. He says, get up in the middle of the night, berosh ashmurot, balayla, at night, before dawn, and pour your heart. Pour your heart like water. Now, I must admit that during this virus that attacked every place in the world, our community did not stop shedding tears and reading Tehillim throughout this time. And it's almost like being in touch with understanding how our life is fragile and how we want to make sure that we are not going to lose life. So we poured like water our tears to make sure that Hashem can hear us and save Am Yisrael. Then he says, תקרא, פסוק כ"ב, תקרא חיום מועד מגורי מסביב, ולא היה ביום אף השם פליד ושרית, אשר טיפחתי וריביתי, אויבי חילם. Sense of regret, sense of a lot of grief we have in this pasuk, that when Hashem has decided that this is the time where Am Yisrael has to face the consequence and the ramification of their negligence and their ignoring the words of the Nevi'im, asking them to stop behaving that way and develop a whole new set of conduct, a whole new set of values, of ethics. Now, we are to reflect upon ourselves, as a community as well, because I'm talking to mostly people from the community. Yes, we have allowed ourselves to have yeshivot from nursery till after high school, and then we send our children to college. And we hope and pray that during all those 12 years, all those 18 years that we have worked so hard to develop in our children a healthy, honest, integrity system of walking in the path of Hashem and in the path of the Torah, and carrying this identity inside us with no doubt, no shame, with trust, with respect, with a belief, a very deep belief that this is who one is and how he should carry himself with that confidence. Now, we have to look at each other and say, did we do a good job? So we are in this community for many, many years, and I see an incredible, incredible, beautiful society, which obviously can improve. We have room for improvement, but we have saved the community because of that amazing, I would say, leaders many, many years ago, who has made sure that there will be yeshivas, made sure that we will have a center that our children are going there, so we can keep ourselves together in a diaspora. As we all know, Eretz Israel today is very similar to the American culture. So if we do not protect ourselves from the outside foreign forces, we will eventually fall into the same category as being like the Goyim. But that's not what Hashem wants from us. And look what the Navi is telling us, that if we are not going to genuinely regret how we carry ourselves, if we are being too influenced by the foreign society, and today it's more dangerous than ever because of the media. And I'm not saying that the media is not an amazing invention. It is the best invention ever. It pays a toll if we are taking from foreigner forces and trying to change the way we are to look at the world and to look at the Torah and how we should conduct ourselves. Before we know it, we are lost. We are lost for good. So when we talk about prayer, this is the utmost power that we have that can transform who we are. So when the Navi is telling us, Sha'arei dim'a lo nin'alu, that the gates of tears have not been shut down, that means a lot. That means that we must use that vehicle if we want to transform first oneself. And then after oneself, obviously, we will be able to influence others. Let's look at, again, Pasuk in Perek Gimel, Pasuk Yutet. It says, זכור עוני ומרודי לענה וראש, זכור תזכור ותשוח עלי נפשי. זאת אשיב אל ליבי, על כן אוכי. What else the Navi is telling us that we must exercise in order to open for us a whole new understanding and a whole new way of walking in the path of life? And he says, we have to remember. We must remember, and we cannot forget. We need to remember what happened in the past to Am Yisrael when they were in their downfall. And what happened to Am Yisrael as a suffering. Now, I don't have to go all the way to the destruction of the first temple, because it's very hard sometimes to review what happened there, even though the description is in front of us in this megillah, left and right. But let's go back to what happened more than 60 years ago, where we, the Jewish people, 6 million people died in the Holocaust, and we have documents exactly how people suffered immensely, were burnt in the gas, were killed, were shot, starved, and died from so many calamities in the ghetto, starvation, and then sicknesses that caused their typhus and all that, deaths in the streets, bodies that were laid down and not touched, starvation upon starvation upon starvation. When the Navi says, Zechor oni u'merudi, please, let's remember our poverty, our anguish, the suffering. Zechor tizkor. We must remember, we can't afford to forget. Yes, right now, we are a generation of an abundance. I always say to my fellow friends, I say, we have so much abundance that we don't know what to do with the abundance. Like our choices is not about, well, I'm going to starve or I'm going to be hungry. No, our choices today is what should I eat, this or that? Or can I eat this and that and that? There's no starvation. I have to look at the watch 1 second. Okay. Yes, I have 12 minutes. So we don't have to look back. You open YouTube and look at Ghetto Varsha, look at what happened. These eyewitnesses, people will tell you exactly what happened to them. And the Navi is telling us we must remember because our brain does tricks on us. Let us live in the illusion that things are going to be fun and good all the time. Yes? No. No, it doesn't happen like that because God has a plan. And God's plan is that Am Israel was in the diaspora as a punishment, not as a reward. Therefore, what will happen is that we must go back to our homeland and develop the Shekhinah there and build Bet HaMikdash. So obviously we are in the process of doing it. But what we need to understand that is one of our lessons of Megillat Ekha is that being in the diaspora, even though the Navi told Am Israel in Sefer Jeremiah, not in Megillat Ekha because he's the same author, he told by the voice of Hashem, please Am Israel, go to Babel. Don't think about Eretz Israel now. Now go back, open yeshivot, build houses, start to have a whole civilization and culture there because you're there for 70 years. Now we all know those who came back from Eretz Israel after 70 years, most of them actually stayed in diaspora. Didn't go back to Eretz Israel to build Bet HaMikdash Shani. They didn't. They stayed in the diaspora because it's very hard to move people from their comfort zone, especially if there is an abundance. It's a victory to see someone who has abundance and says, I'm going to Eretz Israel because this is the time where we are supposed to go because we want Shekhinah. We want Shekhinah to be there extensively so not only Am Israel will enjoy it, but the whole world will enjoy it. So Baruch Hashem, we have Eretz Israel, we have more than 8 million Jews there. It's awesome. At the same time, Hashem wants Am Israel in Eretz Israel, and He wants us to progress. Not only in Eretz Israel, also in the diaspora. We are to be the transformed people. So therefore, remembrance, is one of the tools that we must have in order to move forward. And he says, Zot ashiv el libi al ken ochil. If I am bringing it back to my heart, which means that I reflect again and again and again. We have specific days that allow us to remember, but we don't just allow to remember that a day and then move on into our everyday life regularly as usual. No, we are supposed to take care. Al ken ochil, ma ze ochil? Then I'm going to decide that I want to reform, that I want to grow, that I want to do something genuinely, intrinsically, to transform who we are in many aspects. If it's refinement of character, if it's to learn to love one another more and more and more, if it's to be respectful, if it is to be patient, because it's only through refinement of character that we become closer to Hashem. And then he says, it's a hope, you know, we talked about there is a nechama. So as we talk about prayer, I must go back to that place and say, Chasdei Hashem ki lo tamnu, ki lo chalu rachamav. So in the concept of prayer, we must bring always hope. The hope Jeremiah is telling us is that the kindness of Hashem will always remain there. It's always there, the kindness of Hashem and His mercy. Even though during the time that Jeremiah is writing it, Am Yisrael were in the most lowest point in their life. Jeremiah tries to pick them up and tell them, go back to the kindness of Hashem and His mercy, and ask for this mercy, and ask for Hashem's kindness, because Hashem is loving kindness. So we are, as much as we want to, demand from ourselves and ask from ourselves, at the same time, coincide, we are always to open gates of hope into ourselves and look at things in a positive way. And if we look positively and we understand that kindness and mercy exist in the world, and Hashem wants to shower it on us, that therefore we first have to show that kindness and mercy towards one another, towards oneself. And this is another one big lesson that Jeremiah is telling us. And in the following pasuk, he says, Chadashim lebkarim rabba emunatecha. So one of the lessons that Jeremiah is telling us is about faith. What is the art of faith? So first, Chachamim tell us emunah is actually Torah. So when we learn Torah, we actually increase our faith. When we talk about emunah, when we talk about faith, we need to know that this is an evolving, I would say, way of life. We are to work on our emunah on a daily basis. As it says here, Chadashim labekarim, which means every day it's a new day. Every day we are new people. Every day our level of emunah grows higher and higher, and it depends on what? How can we increase our emunah? How can we feel closer to Hashem? Has a lot to do with whatever we mentioned here, the Torah and the tefillah, and acts of kindness. Truly, when someone learns Torah, when someone hears a class, even if it's only Musar, or someone is learning Gemara or learning Tanakh and looking at the commentary and looking at the commentary that one uses more pshat and the other one uses more drash and the other one uses sod. It's just opening our brain, it's opening our mind, and then we feel closer to Hashem. And therefore, our emunah is increased. It's not that once I believe, then it's there like that. No, it's always like climbing higher and higher and higher and higher. And this is another message that the Navi Jeremiah is telling us. Yes? Chadashim labekarim rabba emunatecha. Every day should be a new day. Every morning, it's a new start. It's a new start. So when we open the Siddur, and yes, we say the same tefillot, but they have not same meaning. Every day, it's a new meaning. And with this new meaning, we have a new emunah. Not new, increased, stronger, more profound. And then Jeremiah is telling us, sharing with us, something so personal. And he says, Chelki Hashem amra nafshi, al ken ochilo. Jeremiah says, this is my share. This is who I am. And I read today It was so interesting. I read by Chida that says that Jeremiah is the Gilgul of Shlomo HaMelech. Like I was, moved back. Wow, really? Because we all know that Shlomo is the one who built Beit HaMikdash. And now Jeremiah is the one who has to see the destruction of Beit HaMikdash. Due to what? Due to a lot of things that were set forth, unfortunately, starting with King Solomon himself, as we all know, who married thousands of women, all foreigners, and that he didn't have no shlita, he didn't have no control over them. And the whole concept of Avodah Zarah was drip, 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 starting to be evident in Am Yisrael during that time. Shlomo HaMelech was the greatest leader of all. He wrote to us such books of Musar. He was, during his time, during his 40 years of controlling Eretz Israel and leading Am Yisrael, people sat under the fig tree and the vineyard, and they were very happy and wealthy and successful. But few seeds were already planted to create, the calamity after 430 years of the destruction of the first temple. But Jeremiah says, Chelki Hashem amra nafshi. I'm going to tell you what's my share. My share is that I'm a hopeful person. Jeremiah could write such descriptions talking about what mothers had to kill when they saw their babies dead and they had to eat their food. Talking about what he saw left and right, the dead bodies, starvation. Women who were so wealthy had to go in the streets and with their bare feet and step on dirt and die because of that, because they were so spoiled in a sense. That's Jeremiah, who saw all that, still tells us something unbelievable. He says, I chose hope. And I chose to pray to Hashem. And I chose to have tears. Because I believe with all my heart, Jeremiah says, that this is going to be our salvation. When we are going to turn to Hashem. When we are going to turn to Hashem, things are going to start to look different. So, this is only one concept that we take today. We talk about the prayer. We are going to talk more about other parts of the Megillah in our next classes that we have Be'ezrat Hashem. What I want to summarize as of now is, just if you can open the book, and I know the English word would probably be very poetic. Myself, when I look at the Hebrew words, it's like, doesn't stop touching my heart to see how Jeremiah succeeded to recaptivate not only the moment, but the feelings and his own reflection over what needed to be done in order to avoid all that. And this is one of the things that myself keep asking, how can we create a society that focuses on prevention rather than rehabilitation? And I believe that Jeremiah is giving us that answer. He's talking about developing an attitude that we are connected to our emotions, that we are not afraid to be transparent, that we are not afraid to have our heart outside in our faces, in a sense of, first, gratitude to Hashem. Second, that if we do want to ask something, we should ask it from Hashem. We should not go in an indirect way, but direct, transparent, open. Talk to Hashem. if we had tears that would go straight to Hashem, we would avoid so many calamities. If we would be in touch that we only want to be close to Hashem, therefore the way we walk in our life would be totally different. How much it's important when we talk about prevention, that there should be the art of modeling. And I cannot say that Jeremiah was not that model, because look at this pasuk, I'm going to read it again. Chelki Hashem. My share is that I'm in touch with Hashem. I'm close to Hashem. This is how I walk. So you can imagine the prophet Jeremiah before the destruction, walking, and his words are words of Hashem because he is so close to Hashem. So he talks his language. So he sends that message of, I am telling you, be in touch with God. Pay attention to what he's asking of us. So if I will go to the original person, Avraham Avinu, yes, who is the first one that Hashem actually made him the vehicle to develop a whole new understanding about the oneness of Hashem, the monotheism. And that Hashem told Avraham Avinu, you know, I'm going to continue being with your children, knowing that they will walk in the path of Hashem. And what was it? It wasn't Taryag mitzvot yet. It was a very broad concept of ethics and morality. Lasot chesed, to do acts of kindness. Tons of mitzvot are around acts of kindness. To be true and just, wow. Mitzvot are all over about truth and just. Keeping the Shabbat and following all the Lametet Avot Melacha, all the 39, factors that we are to follow on Shabbat, and to stay away from doing any activity that Hashem says, I gave you Shabbat. I could have continued creating this world and developing and making more and more and more, but I stopped so I can give you the ability also to create. So I gave a day of rest on Shabbat for reflection, and just don't do A, B, and C. Just enjoy the concept of Shabbat. That's part of what Hashem is telling to Avraham. I want them to keep Asot Chesed, Mishpat, Tzedakah, Emet. So these are the broad concepts. This is like looking at the forest, as I explained. And then we zoom, as we zoom here. And zooming means paying attention to the details, because God is in the details. And the same thing for Jeremiah. So I'm going to conclude for today. And Be'ezrat Hashem, next week we are going to talk more of Megillat Ekha and the lessons of Megillat Ekha. And hopefully we're all going to enjoy the class. Thank you.